Welcome back, my friends. Thanks again for joining us for another episode as we just take a few minutes out of our day in God's Word. We're glad you're with us and hope these next few minutes will be an encouragement and help as we continue in our study through the book of Genesis. If you're following along with us in the scriptures, whether in a Bible or a tablet or phone or something like that, we're in Genesis chapter number 27. We get to the point now where we are looking at Isaac and his two sons, Jacob and Esau. And we're going to look at, again, one of the more familiar passages that come with this is where Jacob, in working with his mother, uses deception to gain now the blessing. Jacob, from the blessing from Isaac. He had already got the birthright earlier from a meal that he had sold to him, but now he's going to take the blessing. So we're going to look at this, get a better understanding of what's going on, and then take a couple principles that we can learn from this that ultimately do, result from what's taking place here. So Genesis chapter 27, bit of a longer section of scripture, but you'll see how it all fits together. We say in chapter 27, verse 1, "Now it came to pass when Isaac was old, his eyes were so dim that he could not see, that he called Esau his older son and said to him, 'My son.' He said, 'Here I am.' And then he said, 'Behold, now I am old and do not know the day of my death. Now therefore please take your weapons, your quiver, your bow, and go out into the field and hunt game for me, and make me savory food such as I love, and bring it to me that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die.' Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to Esau his son. Esau went to the field to hunt game and to bring it. So Rebekah spoke to Jacob her son, saying, 'Indeed, I have heard your father speak to Esau your brother, saying, Bring me game, make me savory food for me, that I may eat and bless you in the presence of the Lord before my death. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice according to what I command you. Go now to the flock and bring me, for there are two choice kids of goats, and I will make savory food for them, for your father, such as he loves. Then you shall take it to your father, that he may eat it, and that he may bless you before his death.'" And so immediately what you see, what you really get, you get two different things. There's the birthright that comes, that usually goes just to the oldest son. We know earlier that Esau thought he was going to die for starvation, so he sold it to Jacob. And now we go to the point where Rebekah is trying to talk about getting the blessing from his father. And so Esau's been sent out to the field. As you know, that Jacob loved Esau. There was this, Isaac loved Esau, and there was this favoritism that was seen in the way that Isaac loved Esau and Rebekah loved Jacob. And this favoritism rolls into the way Jacob treats his children later. But you see this favoritism, and now it's turned into another battle. And you see something that's been true of Jacob. We know the name Jacob means supplanter, means deceiver. And so you see another area where Rebekah is teaching this and helping this as they're walking into a way to deceive Isaac so that Jacob can get just one more thing that really doesn't necessarily belong to him. Verse 11 says, "And Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, Look, Esau, my brother, is a hairy man, and I am smooth-skinned man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem a deceiver to him, and I shall bring a curse on myself and not a blessing." But his mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice, and go get them for me." And he went out and got them and brought them to his mother, and his mother made savory food such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the choice clothes of her elder son Esau, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob her younger son. And she put the skins of the kids of the goats on his hands and on the smooth parts of his neck. Then she gave the savory food and the bread which she had prepared into the hand of her son Jacob. So he went to his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done just as you told me. Please your eyes, sit, eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." Now, immediately he comes in, he speaks, and at this point you know that we've read that Isaac is going blind, and so he's going off of the voice. And the moment he comes in and he speaks, Isaac immediately begins, as we'll see in a moment, to recognize that he did not recognize. It did not seem to be the voice of the son he recognized. Of this old age, he recognized there might be levels of deception. One of the things we'll just take a second and look back to is the fact you see Rebekah working with Jacob. You see the detail that went into this. And obviously he was afraid of getting a curse from his father, but you do see the great detail that went into this. And in a moment, we'll look at just some simple principles that come from deception. I think sometimes we get the idea that as long as we get away with it, as long as we get what we want from from it, it's okay. But in a moment, we're going to see how the actions that they went through, that they have participated in, come back to kind of haunt them for a long period of time. Go verse 20. But Isaac said to his son, how is it that you have found it so quickly? So Isaac immediately catches on to something going on here. He knows that it should have taken him longer. He's got to go hunt. He's got to find it. Then he's got to cook it. And so immediately he catches on. But again, Jacob jumps in deception, quick to answer. And he said, because the Lord your God brought it to me. Isaac said to Jacob, please come near that I may feel you, my son, whether you really are my son Esau or not. So Isaac knew something was up. Jacob, I'm sure, is coming nervous, and so he comes in. He wants him to feel him. Why? Because that was part one, because he could not see. Hearing seemed tricky, so he's going to feel him. He also, that's part of the blessing. There was a lot of physical touch and intimacy that came as part of the blessing. Verse 22. So Jacob went near to Isaac, his father, and he felt him and said, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands, so he blessed him. Then he said, are you really my son Esau? Here he goes again. Again, Jacob is constantly being forced to lie, constantly being forced to add to the deception. He said, the end of verse 24, I am. He said, bring it near to me, and I will eat of my son's game, so that my soul may bless you. So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, come near now and kiss me, my son. And he came near and kissed him, and he smelled him and smelled his clothing and blessed him and said, surely the smell of my son is like the smell of a field which the Lord has blessed. Therefore, may God give you of the dew of heaven, of the fatness of the earth, and the plenty of grain and wine. Let people serve you, and nations bow down to you. Be master over your brethren, and let your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and blessed be those who bless you. You see a lot of similarity to the Abrahamic covenant that was given to Isaac that ultimately would go to his descendants, and this one ended up going to Jacob. It ultimately goes that his brothers will serve him, and you see so much. You talk about there will be a blessing of the field, a lot of rain, which means, remember, in farming, agriculture is where a lot of wealth was found in those days, and so he was trying to bless him with wealth. He was blessing him with leadership, and you see a lot of these final words, relatively normal. In this case, in the eyes of God, it was a blessing that God would honor in this scenario. And really now here's what you can see. And honestly, as I was reading this and I was looking at this earlier, should I say to an extent from a skeptic's perspective, what you can see in the story is you can see, man, it seems like he got away with it, right? Because you follow the rest of the story of Jacob. Jacob does become the father of the children of Israel. Jacob does become the one that becomes blessed. He becomes the name through which the Abrahamic covenant comes through. Here's a couple things we look at this. You say, well, it doesn't seem fair. He was the deceiver. And because of that, he was able to win. So obviously, the ends justify the means. We've said this other quote before more than once. I always encourage you, it's never right to do wrong, to get a chance to do right. First thing I would say is this. I would look here in the full sovereignty of God. Please remember, in the sovereignty of God, there's still free will. This was not God's choice to make this happen. That doesn't mean that God wasn't ultimately going to choose Jacob. Because we've seen earlier the character of Esau was not the type of man that God wanted to use. But we do see from this point that maybe God would have chosen Jacob. It didn't necessarily have to go this way. And a lot of times what we do is we strive, we want an end, and we manipulate to get to that end. In some occasions, it might have been the same one, but trusting God would have made the process easier. What do I mean by that? Now, what we're going to study over the next couple of chapters is we're going to see that Jacob ends up running away to his uncle Laban, who then he receives what he just done. Laban brings great deception to him. Right? Then later on, we're going to see that he has children. He's got the 12 tribes. He's got Joseph, and he shows favoritism, and the 12 sons end up deceiving him in one of the worst ways. What we see here is something that a decision that Jacob has made will follow him the rest of his life. And that's something that, it goes back to Galatians, you reap what you sow. And that's something that I would encourage and challenge. Immediately you look at this and say, it seems like it made sense. It seemed like it worked. But what you're going to find is while he got away with it per se, he really didn't. And so may we be careful that God is not mocked. It's not always, that part in Galatians is not always a promised punishment. It just says, it's just a set of consequences. If you reap after something, that's what you're going to get back. It's just the promise of investment, the return on investment. And that's what we see here. Let me challenge you. I guess the one other thought I would give as we conclude here is I would just come to this idea that never let your decisions be influenced by the immediate. Always strive. We've said this before as we studied through this. Always strive to make sure that you base your important decisions off the long term. What is God's plan? Following God. A lot of times the immediate, what we want, makes us to make rash decisions, dangerous decisions. So I challenge you as we look at this. And this deception, that was the wife, it was the son, and so much more we could look into this and the dangers of favoritism in the home and all these things. I would always challenge you, never make your decisions that look good, long-term decisions based on immediate actions. This comes back to haunt him for a long period of time. And by the way, Jacob did not have to do what he was told. He could have said no. He made his own decision, which resulted in a list of problems that came his way. What was the change? What was the change? Well, one day, Jacob's name has been renamed to Israel, and it was the day that he was face to face with God. And we'll talk about that at some point, but that became that change in his life. And let me challenge you that it's easier to do that now than to go through some of the grief that Jacob went through to get to that point. We do appreciate the privilege you've given us to be part of your day. I hope that was an encouragement as we continue to study through the book of Genesis and learn more about God and our walk with him. Again, thanks for joining us.